Hello, senators and legates. Welcome to Total War Tactics. Today we're going to take a closer look at a tactic which has shown to be very effective in real life. But now we need to figure out if it's good enough for Total War. As you can see, we're going to be doing this in Rome 2 with the Divide Et Impera mod enabled. We're going to be covering a tiny bit of historical context, the theoretical formation and how to execute it, the army composition, how to use it in game against the player and AI, and lastly but not least, how to defeat it. If there are any parts of this video you want to see, there are timestamps in the description for you to use. But with that said, let's introduce the tactic. The concentration of force tactic isn't specifically a tactic, but rather an inspiration of Napoleon's war strategy. On several occasions Napoleon found himself outnumbered, yet he always managed to have more men whenever the battles were fought. Right before battle he would divert parts of different armies together into one large group, so they together could crush whatever unlucky foe they would face by outnumbering them. All because of the strategy and immense logistics work. Truly impressive. The thing is, it is not only him who did this. It also occurred during the Balkan Wars and at the Battle of Tannenberg. If you want to learn more about those events, I would suggest go searching for it. I won't explain it here. But this phenomenon is in military terms also known as defeat in detail. One of the most excellent ways to win a war. Not so historical, however. In my head-to-head campaign against Immersaholik, he unknowingly did this in a way. I was playing as the Nervii and him as Lusitani. I had larger armies, more men, and overall a much better economy, at expense of worse quality units till the save crashed. I would spread out my large army to put pressure on his entire front line. He would, however, combine all of his armies into one large group and take out one invasion after the other. The only difference is whenever he did this, he didn't leave anything behind to protect those areas, allowing me to eventually push through. You get the idea. Now let's talk about how to bring this strategy into a tactical perspective. For this to make sense, we need to bring the effect of having several small armies onto the battlefield. Luckily, as you can have 20 units in a regular army, we can make 5 sub-armies, as I'm gonna call them. Each one will require 2 infantry units, 1 skirmisher, and also a mounted unit. This way they should be able to fight independently and of course be stronger when eventually together. The skirmishers and mounted units will act as the flexible part that will run from side to side, giving that overwhelming effect. As I'm writing this script now, I can already say I forgot to do this in the heat of battle, as I was too focused on everything else. But it sounds cool, right? In terms of outnumbering your opponent, you need to stretch him out. This is possible with your sub-armies that can move around independently. However, this is extremely dangerous as a good player will see this as an opportunity and move his entire army to just one side for a devastating strike, leaving your other sub-army the furthest away useless. From this, I've concluded to limit this problem, your sub-armies on the flanks require some level of speed. Keep the heavy infantry in the center and leave the lightly armored ones on the flanks. With that said, let's go over to the army composition. For this battle test, I'm gonna be playing against God, an excellent Total War player with tons of experience compared to me. We fought 2 battles and the one I'm gonna be showcasing is our second one, as I accidentally deleted the first where I did alright. But he is gonna be playing as the Lusitani while I will use Carthage. It was in these battles against him I learned the importance of fast wings. But I chose this army right here. The only important thing from this is the elephants and sacred band for the center, which I expected to carry this tactic. But let's go over to the battle where I will showcase my major mistakes. This is how I formed up elephants and behind the central sub-armies, with the heaviest infantry in there as well. God would keep more men in reserve and in general most of his army on one side of the field, which he would further increase by pushing his entire army towards one side. And this is of course where I make my first mistake. I was too focused on his 2 cavalry units on his flank, so I kept 2 sub-armies away from the imminent battle. Then I took the central sub-army and forced it all the way over to the right, leaving us severely outnumbered in the center. Looking back at this, my eyes are hurting. Massive mistake. My best units, the Sacred Band, would instead guard our rear against cavalry charges, and that didn't go well either. However, something I did do well was pushing my elephants through the gaps of the battle line to recharge his elite swordsmen. After the battle, Geo told me he got pressured by this and just took every unit in the region to counter this move. And after I saw this happen, I tried to bring more mounted units over there to even the odds. But by then, my men had routed. And here comes yet another major mistake. In an attempt to halt these forces pouring in through our lines, I charged my general in to stop them, changed my mind and accidentally got him killed. After that, the battle was basically over. One of the worst fights I've ever fought. To make up for this, let me show how it actually works against the AI, which isn't that hard, to be honest. This time I played as Saba against the Seleucids. I tried to make the army as if the AI would make them, and still decent enough. For me, the only major unit difference are the chariots instead of elephants. As I got closer and started to push their flanks, they suddenly decided to rearrange the formation. I obviously executed my plan before they could complete this. And although the plan was to take out smaller portions at a time, it is better to attack an enemy clumped up into a massive blob, while they don't have space to organize themselves. The AI got utterly crushed, which also can be seen by the statistics from after the battle. In terms of how to defeat this tactic, we have already encountered a few major weaknesses. If your opponent concentrates most of his forces on just one flank, in the style of an oblique order, the tactic will have a hard time. The same can be said if your enemy brings their cavalry behind your lines to threaten with their charges. However, this can be sorted by removing a sub-army and distributing those units into a reserve force. With that said, I don't know what the right amount of sub-armies are. This video was tested with 5, but maybe 4 or even 3 is the sweet spot. I will let you figure out that for yourselves. Please let me know if you find something to work for you. But before you leave, I will also mention the possibility to use the gaps between each sub-army by attacking the front line units from the side. These gaps can on the other hand also be used by your own mounted units. In the end, it's just a massive game of chess, which is the reason I love this franchise. With that said, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching, goodbye and spread happiness.